Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Anthony Stabile and Andy Serling as we continue with the Wood Memorial Week, one day closer to the race. And most importantly, we are back on the turf today. We're fast and firm, Anthony.
Yeah, looking forward to the grass for the first time in 2023. Hopefully the first of many nice days on the lawn. And yeah, sure sign that spring has sprung.
And listen, no matter what we do, at least we didn't cancel opening day of the Mets yesterday in a day when no rain came.
How ridiculous was that?
Well,
it's sprinkled
I'd like to think that their decision kept the rain away. So I'm going to decide they did it for us so that we would be on the turf today.
I was confused. I thought it was a night game tonight, but apparently it's now. It's a 110.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
It's supposed to be 110 yesterday. And even in the worst scenario, the rain was supposed to come till after 5 o'clock anyway. But anyway, we're not the Mets.
Ridiculous.
We'll continue to root for the Mets, but
yes,
with somewhat of a jaundiced eye in my particular case. Head over to before race number one, let's head over to NYRA Bets and take care of that. Use the promo code bonus 200. Excuse me, bonus 200. We will match the $200 of your initial deposit. Head on over. Saw Jose Lezcano this morning. I often see him. Anyway, what else do we have? We have the pick six carryover, $31,585. And I don't care what the results had been. I don't think anybody was using that last winner. And if you had the 4 in the last race, I just want to say you have my condolences, and I think Anthony would agree with that. Talk about losing with a horse that was basically in the winner's circle. Wow.
That was something. I know Marjorie Crone, who owns the winner since I'm in a stroller, but that was something.
Oh, hey, listen, somebody benefits from it, but anyone that bet the 4
that was something.
Was, I think, 9-1. I mean, you have a right to be sick. That's a tough beat. That horse wasn't covered in the pick six anyway. One horse was covered. He bet 75 or more at Aqueduct and Keeneland. Opt in. You get a $15 bonus. I've already done this. You can do this in the heading of the new NYRA Bets website, by the way, which a big improvement that I think a lot of us appreciate. We have Wood Memorial Betting Challenge. You got to 5 o'clock today. $1,000 buy-in, BCBC seat plus cash prizes. Online and on track as well. Of course, we appreciate you watching the Wood and watching our races at home. And keep in mind, there will be a 6 to 6:30 show covering the Wood Memorial on Big Fox tomorrow. So we're excited about that, covering the big race. The whole team will be here. And what else do we have? We have your Dinner and Derby event as well, Wednesday, May 3rd. So you see all the details there. Check it out. Maggie, Acacia, and the Big A, Anthony Stabile. And finally, last but not least, America's Day at the Races, 1 to 6:30 today. I think they're running 40 races at Oaklawn, so we'll be here throughout the evening covering those races. And we get to race number 1, and I believe that you have the one Suppresso on top in here. We'll take a look at his last race, and you can talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of picking horses like this who just come off these bottom-level maiden wins, but he comes in for a barn that's had some interesting mixed results, and this horse he popped off and just ran off the screen. He took all the money, was 3-1 favorite, and he galloped home. This was more of a pick, Andy, where I just didn't want to take a horse like Cheeky Tico, who's had a bunch of chances to get out of the maiden ranks, and then a few to get out of this condition, and the rest of them, if this is a move the chains in the pick 5 for me. If Suppresso or Cheeky Tico don't get out of this heat, I'm going to be proverbially shredding the early pick 5 ticket. Obviously, I'll be playing on NYRA Bets, so there'll be no ticket, but I won't be alive after this. So I
don't really get Suppresso.
Okay.
You know, it's a very hard barn to read. These are the same owners of that horse with Juan Vasquez, which I think people are familiar with. And this horse last time, despite not running a step in his prior race, got bet off the board in his last race, and he galloped. I'm not complaining. I picked him. Having said that, they're random. And I wonder if when they get bet, I know they had that one crazy winner that paid a big price, and that was an impossible horse to make. But otherwise, every horse they win with is bet. If they're supposed to be 30-1, they're 10-1.
Yep.
They're supposed to be 8-1, they're 5-2.
Yep.
And I think this horse, they knew the horse was going to run that day. Doesn't mean he can't win today, and I don't disagree. His last effort certainly makes him a contender in here. But I want to see it to believe it. I don't have an argument with you that Cheeky Tico is certainly dangerous. A little sick and tired of him, to be honest with you. Having said that, he makes a lot of sense in this race. He's logical. I think Burt, who's over bet right now, is also another logical horse. He's dropping down. He caught a muddy sealed track last time out. He's got a race 3 back, sealed track or not. At least it wasn't much moisture in his that just would bury this field. So I think he's a dangerous player. But I want to take a new face, and the new faces just are appealing to me with Midnight Chrome, a horse who's second off a layoff. He got a perfect prep last time, stalking very wide in there. He did not run well. I'm not going to defend him. It was a better field than the one he's facing today. He's got back races, good enough to compete here, to say the least, running against better horses. And I thought as a drop down for a barn that seems to come here meaning business, I thought he was a little bit interesting as an alternative in a race where I don't have an argument against Cheeky 2. I'm mostly against the one. We have a different opinion in race number 1. Race number 2. I'll start out with the horse that I have on top in here. You have third in Balpool. And, we'll watch the win, which I thought was a fine win. I mean, it's an okay race. Gifted has run well. The race and finished third. The second place finisher, not so much in his next start. If you look at the race at Laurel last time, horses were winning towards the inside, but they were not right on the rail. And Balpool was like the rabbit at the dogs, right on the rail. And I just wonder if he was mired down in the worst part of the racetrack in his last race. And if he was, and you move the figure up, even if it wasn't that bad, you move the figure up 5-6 points, he's closer to the 71 he got in here, which makes him the horse to beat. I took Balpool in here. I understand Fancy Azteca, who certainly ran well for Linda. I'm still not convinced this horse is that good, but I get the thought.
Yeah, I don't know, getting the Lasix back. I don't know what happened. Maybe that was the deal when the Sakata
ran the same figure, ran the other races.
Ran the same figure, I guess. Balpool's race, the race beating Check Engine Light, who I don't think wants to be inside of horses. She ran well enough, I guess. I had a tough time with this race. I don't know what to do with Crimson coming in.
We'll get to Crimson in a second. You don't have La Vida Sofia in your top 4. No, hold off on Crimson, please. Do you mind? I'm sorry. Can we hold off on her for a second? I want to talk about La Vida Sofia. You don't have her in the top 4?
I didn't like her maiden race, and then I guess the race 2 back behind Shitta Booty is okay, but I just didn't know what to make of her. Like, all of her races are slow.
Well, who's so fast in here?
They're a little faster than her, aren't they?
Not really. I mean, the only horse a little faster, the 1 and 2. I think she's better than you do, but we'll see. Now, you mentioned Crimson. We'll show the race last time. What did you want to say about Crimson?
I felt like she was professional in this race. She got herself, it was a sloppy track. She found herself between some traffic. It wasn't a lot of traffic.
No, it wasn't a sloppy track. It was a sealed track that was listed as good. It looks like that because it's sealed, but there's not an enormous amount of moisture in it.
I thought there was enough. I thought she dealt with enough.
Really?
First time out. I thought she dealt with enough first time out.
She got a 51 buyer in this race with a
that's
perfect trip. And we haven't touched on what's odd about her. What's odd about her is that Eclipse Thoroughbreds decided to buy into her after this race. I have respect for Eclipse. They're very sharp. They have some good horses. But this is not, in fact, I say this out of respect for them. What the heck did they see in this horse? Now, there's no pedigree that I can find.
It's a late purchase, right? In the beginning of March.
Nothing I could find. People are going to buy horses at that point in those situations. But this horse ran a 51 buyer with a good trip on a sealed racetrack against a bad field. Now, a couple horses have come out of the race and improved their figures. So maybe it's a race much stronger. Timeform US doesn't have any better than Beyer does. And listen, for all I know, they paid nothing for this horse. But I don't understand why Eclipse is suddenly going in and buying horses for cheap. That's not really their right. Yeah. Stellar Win was bought out of race at Laurel, and obviously Hronis Racing did great with her out in California. Unfortunately, she didn't win the Breeders' Cup, but I'll get over that eventually. I just found this horse to be the most interesting horse in the card because I would love to know the story as to why Eclipse decided to buy into this horse, because it just doesn't make sense to me. Because on the surface of things, why would anybody make a call about this horse? Because they'd say, "Oh, you want to pay $40,000?" This is a $35,000 commissioner with no pedigree. Right, I thought I was going to look it up and there was going to be something I would find, and I didn't find anything. And I asked David Aragona, he had the same thought. I just thought this was a very, very strange private purchase. I don't mean that as a negative. I just don't get it. That's all. I mean, they've got an interesting private purchase in Tomorrow's Gazelle, but that horse is interesting. They bought it at Tampa. This horse, I'd love to know the story.
Just a head scratcher.
It's just a weird one. Yeah, that's all.
Buy enough, but move to Todd.
If it was the original connections, I would say, okay, they want to race. They're going to find $9 a 1. It's not that strong a race, and take a shot. But why this horse was bought is very odd. So race number 3, I don't know if the horse was favored morning line. I wouldn't be surprised. In Traffic was 5-2.
No, April
Anderson's favored. Oh, thank you. Pick 6 carryover, 31,585. That starts in race number 3 of our 8-race card. 3 of those races being on the turf. I don't know where you went here, but I don't know where you even go here.
I went to the rail. I mean, I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know what else I was supposed to do.
I scratched into it for a second. I was going to show the race. I didn't bother. At this point, I thought In Traffic ran a much better race. I thought that she made the earlier move in there. And, boy, I thought of all the horses in the race, April Antics just sucked up for second. I went to the Ritchie's World stable people and hoping today's the day. Because I'll tell you something about this horse
You
last
picked the
time.
other one. I put a second. You picked the other one.
Bravo Regina last time out, she's 4-1. She didn't get bet. I know you could say, oh, I don't know. She was huge price in all her races. She was dropping. I was one of many people that picked her that day, and she went to 4-1 late. She was much higher.
Yeah,
and
she was
drifted,
like 7-8 to 1, and
she drifted down.
One hit.
So she felt like she wasn't going to run, and I remember thinking that this horse isn't going to run today, and she didn't run. Now she may not have run because she may just stink. Having said that, I don't mean. Here's the problem.
I put a second.
I thought about picking Crystal Orb in here, but the problem with Crystal Orb is there isn't a single race that makes her competitive in here. But she's a controlling speed. Listen, you can take a look at Russell. I don't think Russell wants to get a mile, but did run second a mile with a 62 buyer, so maybe he can win, finish behind. I'm not going to be surprised that horse wins this race. At least in her case, she's not coming out of the Freudian race. She's the only one in this race not coming out of the Freudian race, and maybe that's the handicapping angle to like her. We'll see.
Yeah.
Matty Oliver looking for another win after winning on that 34-1. Should have known. I saw Siaka, the first person I saw leaving the track. I left a little early. And I should have known when he said to me, what race did we just run? That he would win a race later on the card. I wanted to say, I don't know, Gary, it's 3 o'clock, you do the math. 3:30, you do the math. It's probably a nice car, though.
What race did we just run? That's a new one.
Yeah. He probably said that after the 8th race yesterday, too. Race number 4, and this is it. It is the beginning of turf season this year. You have gone to the one.
Didn't we only run 8 yesterday?
We only ran 8, yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That was the joke. You're a little slow on the uptake on that one, but at least you got it eventually, which, you know. Anyway, go ahead with electric stuff.
Electric stuff. First time grass. The source has a ton of turf pedigree. I cannot read my notes, but I remember.
Source says there's a first foal from a dam that was good on the turf.
Yeah.
And she won almost $200,000. The second dam was okay. There's pedigree on that side. And I agree with you. The source is dangerous, has some speed, could be dangerous, feels like factually correct, could be outside of the source, but no argument with that. But I want to look at some other horses. I want to talk about It's All Coming Together. And we're going to show you, we don't need to show the head on because this is one of the races we idiotically didn't show the actual pan. And this horse is just getting completely slouched. And by the time we'll pick it up and you'll see, the horse is back to the end. Now this is the first turf race. I'll talk about the second one in a second. And now this was a time when Phil Serpy was winning with everything up in Saratoga. They were running great. And I get it. His horses, I don't believe he's won a race in 2023. Or he has one win, I'm sorry, in 2023. So he's struggling. This horse should have won that day. Wasn't that bad a field. The Winter Con Man is an okay horse for Mark Casse. So this horse ran a winning race that day, not eliminated the start with a 1, has a pedigree. Okay, comes back and doesn't run a lot better and saved ground, angled out. Louis gave this horse a good ride. I'm going to tell you something. You start looking at the horse that this horse ran against, and that field was okay. The 6th horse improved significantly. Other horses improved out of the race. 2nd horse improved 16 points. Winner improved 6 points in the subsequent start. 6th horse 19 points. I think this horse may have run good races. And one thing I don't want to get caught up in are the kind of figures that 2-year-olds earn on the turf. Sprinting and long. They just don't, they just get much better, and they become 3-year-olds mostly. There's another horse in this race that I think a lot of us may have forgotten about, and that's 26 Black. And 26 Black is sort of relevant to a horse in the last race today, that horse that Clement had, because he was 4-5 in this race. Because this is one of the weirder races, and you've probably forgotten this, but you'll remember when we watch it now. This horse is on the lead, okay? Look at the running line. There's no way that you could look at this running line if you don't remember this race. And I don't know what Jose Ortiz was doing. I don't know what his idea was here, but for some reason, he just completely took this horse back out of the race. And in doing so, he interfered with 2 horses behind him, including Disarmed. And so not only did he hurt this horse's chances, now, I will say something else about this horse. And yes, I needed him for second. He still should have been second. The horse, though, that followed him, obviously better dirt horse, was General Banker. It's funny looking back at these races and seeing the different horses in here. Noble Huntsman, who won the race for Mitch Friedman, turned out to be okay. I mean, he ran some decent races.
He hit the board on
yeah,
some
like
of
the
those
Awad or
races,
one of those races, the Central Park. I don't know. It's tough to keep
The
him
Awad.
straight.
It was the Awad.
But I remember this horse coming back, and I looked at him, and I was thinking, I know who this horse is, and you can't tell from the running line
He was in
that
front for
this was the
16th of a
horse
mile.
that was in front until, like, what, 50 yards before the first call, which is when Jose took him back. So this horse is a little bit interesting in here, coming back in there. So
I had him third.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they're worth highlighting. Listen, factually correct's a little interesting too. I mean, I no knock on Rudy, but Michelle Hemingway had this horse ready to go first time out. But the horse that won was that John Pregman horse that had run second, like 70-1 the first time out when he kind of made
Rider changed
good
to
ride, but then he got in trouble.
Changed to Javier, and he got the money that day,
was
right?
it Louis Rodriguez? Louis Castro Rodriguez.
But Javier rode him when he
Yeah,
won.
but he gave him a really good ride, but he made a mistake in the stretch that probably cost him the win, a big price. So kind of interesting to see all of these horses coming back in here and
in one race.
Yeah,
off the layoff.
But 26 Black to me was one of the funnier horses because he had such an effect on that race and even horses that are running later today. Good to have turf racing back. Is a lot more to talk about. I agree. I'm sorry the 3 horses came out of the last race, but we'll talk about the 2 turf races and the late pick 4 after a quick break.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
I want to thank our friends at Saratoga Springwater for sponsoring Talking Horses. Anthony Stabile, Andy Serling. For me, the Scratch of Baltazar destroyed this race for me. I was very much looking forward to betting him in here. And understandably, at this point, Awesome Native will take a look at winning 2 back. It's going to be a heavy favorite. I don't feel that there's a significant enough difference between his chances of winning and the chance of Listen to Your Heart winning that I wanted to take him at 2-5, but I get it. He'll probably win.
You know, David I see what boulders are out. Yeah, it'll be considerably now. Yeah, I thought last time he just had himself in a hopeless situation, stretching out inside, got himself involved in a pretty contentious early pace with a couple of horses who you'd have to imagine are well on their way to being New York Brit Stakes horses in Overstep and Ouster after their last 2 performances. So,
no, he ran well. I mean, he was involved with a quick pace. I mean, I know that Overstep survived the pace. But as you say, Overstep, at least at this point, appears to be a horse that has a real future. So I'm not going to.
Ouster came back and
ran
won 103 or something?
Ouster picked up the pieces, but he ran a 100 buyer in his next start, winning quite easily. I have no knock on this horse. I am not against him. Against my microphone.
It's all right. Forza, I mean, he's supposed to win. I think he's supposed to win. And if he doesn't, Listen to Your Heart. It's going to be, like you said, Andy, it's going to be a little bit of a better price. I mean, they're the clear-cut first and second choice now.
We're having nothing but problems over here.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't listen. I have no argument. Awesome Native ran well last time. He clearly ran the best race he's ever run, even though he lost. He loses nothing in defeat to me. Listen to Your Heart. I'm hoping Listen to Your Heart. Just a horse that's run some decent races, might be a little bit more forward than he is, sitting behind Writer's Regret. And I'll just take another chance. He is a horse that does seem to run better races on wet tracks. I'm not going to deny it. But I thought his last race a step in the right direction, so I took him on top. But I'm not against Awesome Native. I didn't want to take it.
It's really, really hard to make a case for anybody else in here, isn't it?
They are way the horses to beat. I mean, Prince of Pharaohs does have some races. Interesting to see Leah Girmati claim this horse. She is 2 for 23 off the claim, a positive ROI with a big priced horse. 1 for 14 off the claim on dirt, but she doesn't claim any horses. And I think you have to think this horse if you want somebody else. Writer's Regret had that big figure, but it just hasn't really stood up. It stands out like a sore thumb. You look at his other races, it just doesn't seem fast enough. I know Breaking Stone's a big fig last time, but he's not beating Longren 2 in this race.
Right.
So I get it, but I'm 5s and 4s like everybody else. Race number 6, the first non-maiden turf race of the year, and thought this was an interesting race. And we'll start out by looking at shutters. And I don't disagree. Shutters ran very well in this race. My problem is he's beating Grape Nuts Warrior and Roos, and he's doing it with an unbelievably good ride by Joel Rosario in here. I mean, saving all the ground, getting through, and he was improving for Chad Brown, no doubt about it. On the other hand, did they really intentionally stop on him in September? They didn't get one more race into him, and now he comes back. Now, I will show you Chad Brown's stats off these layoffs, off wins. They are sensational, beyond sensational. So I get it, but isn't he just, I mean, it's like the first non-maiden race that Chad Brown could be in. He's probably going to win it in New York. And those stats are otherworldly. But I don't know, man. Is he really worth a short price? How short's he going to be?
Well, he's 9-5, and Easter's 2-1 on the morning line. Easter on Good Friday again, by the way. Second consecutive year.
Yeah, on Good Friday, right.
Yeah.
Didn't help him last year.
I didn't help him last year, no. I don't know.
Shockingly, it didn't help him this year. You would have thought. I mean,
Do you remember when Jesuit won on Good Friday?
Yeah. You'll be shocked to know. Do you remember when Rabbi won in Yom Kippur?
No.
I mean, right, neither do I.
Remember
but
when we used to
here's the
close
point.
on Yom Kippur? We closed for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, when Barry. Yes, we did. That is correct. I remember when they had They had a day.
Jesuit might have been Butch Reed.
I remember they had a day celebrating Pat Day at Keeneland on Yom Kippur. Fact. It's fact. That's actually true.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's really funny, actually, for a multitude of reasons.
Anyway, I'm not against this horse. I just feel like you got the Chad Brown factor, off the win with a big fig. You're just going to take the worst of it. I disagree with David. This horse is not going to be the same price as the one on the rail. Because this horse is slow. The one on the rail, he's intergalactically slow.
Yeah.
He's so slow he's not even in the pace projector. That's how slow he is.
And that's
The seven snuck in.
That's probably the best. You bring that up.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about this race. I have no knock on the 1 and 7. They're major players in this race. But they're both slow.
I'm assuming you took the bottom horse hoping that Jose is aggressive with him?
Right. I want to have 2 forward horses and one of them on top as opposed to the deeper closers. And can we switch and show the Emboite replay next? Because we do want to talk about our buddy Ray Handel's horse as well if we show Emboite, and this is the race 3 back. I'll tell you something about Emboite. This horse completely and totally turned his life around late last year. And last time he ran, he was 3-4 wide, 2-3 wide. It was a gold rail. Horses came up the rail in his last race. This race, I thought he ran very well. Celestial City, you're telling me he couldn't be favored in this race? And it feels like this was a maker horse that turned his life around, and he's going to be significantly more forward than the other horses, and I just took him for that reason. I don't know if I trust him totally because he couldn't compete with these horses 3, 4, 5 starts ago, but off his last couple, you tell me he can't?
No, especially the race 2 back. The race 2 back makes him very dangerous in here.
The other dangerous horse in this race is Giant's Fire. This horse this is a second foal from a dam that was unraced, but the second dam was an extremely good racehorse. It's a huge amount of turf. The second dam ran in the Japan Cup.
Wow.
Yeah, there is a giant amount
And
of
Jose Gomez is not bashful.
He's got to go with this horse.
He's the one that'll be forward, yeah.
And actually, the second dam was second, the Prix de l'Opera. I mean, the second dam was a serious European racehorse. All right, we haven't discussed Easter. I want to discuss Ray too, but I just worry that Easter's too slow. But I'll tell you something else.
Jumping off point for Easter? Maybe.
I think he's better with less distance, believe it or not.
Well, if you think that, then look,
his European races are all miles, basically.
Yeah, if you think that, then he's got to be a little bit of a player in here. But he gives up so much position early.
And he can't get out of the gate. Now, his first race last year, it says 3-4 path. This horse was basically on the rail that day, and the rail was good. What about Constitution Lawyer? We'll show his race on his last race, actually. We finished 3rd.
Well, isn't he another one? Isn't he a little bit better with more distance?
He seemed to get better he ran well going a mile and 1/8 at Saratoga. He seems to probably want more distance, which is one of the reasons I left him out. He's not as slow as some of the others, but he ain't exactly a bullet.
We'll see if the gelding helps him, see if the freshening helps him.
But I think he's not impossible to get a piece in this race.
He was the one, of the peripheral players, if you will, the Giants Fire, who's a question mark on turf, the Emboite. I put him 3rd, just wondering if he could take advantage of the 3 and the 8, maybe setting the pace and him being.
They'll be duking it out here.
No, but not duking it out, but him being the one forward, but not engaged early. And I think there's a chance that he'll be 6 or 7 to 1. Keep dropping that thing.
Yeah, he'll be a square price.
Yeah.
I don't disagree,
So-
and I don't think he's impossible.
Of the
either.
square prices, he was the one I wanted
So-
the most.
Had to have the prerequisite 2 top choices at least of mine scratched. I'm not sure how it keeps happening, but it does. Pass the Champagne comes out of this race, who I liked in here. I'm going to say that my opinion completely differs from yours. Now I scratched her for 3rd because of the scratch. I don't like Rosa Veloce in this race. We'll take a look at her last race. I'll let you talk about her, but I am against her.
I know
Sorry, Rob.
I know the 7 furlongs is
thank
the
me.
question. I know she's facing exponentially better than what she's faced, but she has been making her hay on the front end, and she's
loose.
supposed to have a huge tactical advantage on these horses, and she's catching Gerrymander, who is in all likelihood the most talented filly in this race.
Who knows who she is? And I scratched into her, which I don't
She's
love.
catching her
We'll get
off
to
the
her.
layoff. I don't know if a little bit more distance is not her friend. I think she's probably better at that 1-turn mile and a 16th over at Belmont. You know, she's going to have a big edge on Funny How as far as tactics go. And
I disagree about the distance, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
As far as Rosa Veloce, she's going to be a heavy favorite here. You look at her last 4 wins. Okay, she did run that crazy big figure to beat Burgoyne. Burgoyne was off a layoff, didn't come back and run as well in her next start. Other than that, she faced Union Lake, and she had everything her own way that day, and Union Lake blew her off the racetrack. Otherwise, she is beating fields that are dramatically inferior.
I'll
They're not
disagree.
a little inferior, they're a lot inferior. I get it. She's running good figures. The scratch of the 1 is a huge help to her. I don't believe she would have won this race with the 1 in here. I could see her winning. I scratched into her for 3rd, but I am not a big fan
well,
of
let
her.
me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I know you like Pass the Champagne. I looked at this race and I said to myself, would you like Union Lake in here? And I would have loved Union Lake in here.
I wouldn't have, so there
Okay.
you go. It's fine. We'll take a look at Funny How, and a lot of credit to Ray and getting the source and Katie Davis, getting the big win last time. But I think it's important to note in this race, and I'm not trying to knock her, but I think you have to look at things in perspective. The first two choices near Betsy Blue and Bank Sting, they didn't show up. They didn't run a step in this race.
Bank Sting's probably on the other side of the mountain. Betsy Blue
Right.
went to the farm after the race.
Right.
Yeah.
So they just didn't. Now
got
she
it.
still ran an 86 fig,
Best
which
fig of
makes
her
her a
career by
player
a
in here.
point. Yep.
And I don't want to knock her, and I'm not trying to knock her, but I think it's important to note that her winning this race was a combination of her running well and both of her competition here not showing up.
Saved the race over Dame Cinco 2 back where she regressed with a little moisture in the ground. She has improved
She
in
has.
every start. And Ray's done a good job managing her.
I want to take the other 2 horses
I
in
don't.
here.
I don't know what Gerrymander is off the layoff.
I
and-
agree. We'll take a look at her with Mother Goose. I don't know anything. And listen, I mean, I'll be honest. I talked to Chad Brown actually yesterday. I never brought her up. Just never. And, you know, I don't. You know me. I don't think that way. I just never thought about it. And I also thought I was picking the 1. But I just hope she runs well. You know, I'm rooting for her to do well in here. And listen, I was not picking her on top in this race until they scratched the 1. It's more of an against play. I could have gone 8-1. I went or 8-2. I went 2-8. I stayed with this. They're the 2 that I want. I don't know what to expect, Anthony, because she was good as a 2-year-old. She ran huge here. She looked like she was on the cusp of maybe being the biggest threat to the nest. And she was a complete and total disaster.
She's a grab bag.
Right,
You don't know what you're going to get.
She was bad in
You really
she was
don't.
bad in the Alabama, but they should have gotten the lead. But she was bad, and then her cotillion was a disaster. I mean, just
Made
awful.
money with her in a Mother Goose, and it was the kind of race where like you feel like when she wins, I was said to myself, I should have made more money with her, but you just can't. There's zero. She's a quality filly where you have zero trust.
No, I don't. And that brings me to Mama's Gotta Run. I'll tell you one thing. If Mama's Gotta Run hadn't run the top flight, I'd have picked her on top, no questions asked. I think she's the best horse near, and I like the 7 furlongs for her. At a big price, do I really want to leave her out in this race? Obviously, she didn't run well last time out, but
Her best race was that race 2 back when she went the flat mile.
Yep.
She sat a good trip right off the.
well, she behaved well in that race. She's
Yep.
actually run very well in her prior races. She just was her own
She
worst
behaved
enemy.
well last time too. I think she's passed. I think there's a chance she's passed her issues.
I don't know. I think she's a 1-turn horse. I think her best races will prove to be at 1 turn. I think she's more comfortable in these
I
1
don't
turn.
know about that.
I
I'm
just
just-
think she's a horse that's reacted badly on the turn sometimes to these things.
I think the blinkers have kind of got her through her issues, and maybe you're right. She's a 1-turn horse, but I wasn't concerned about that. I think she's through her issues. You're asking her to come back in 5 days.
Linda's got good short rest numbers. She's got good short rest numbers. She does.
That's fine.
And-
She's had a pretty good, she's not, you're not only asking her to come back in 5 days, you're asking her to come back in 5 days after coming back in 16 days. So you're asking for 3 races.
I will
3
trust
races in 3 weeks.
I get it, but I'll tell you something. See, if you look at her last race, she threw the towel on top of the stretch.
Yeah, at the quarter pole, she was done.
Right, okay. Yet she didn't really lose any ground.
No, she got to be
in
6
the last
lengths.
eighth of a mile.
Yeah.
So to me, there's a chance she pulled her same act she pulled before that. She just did it at a slightly later part in the race. She's a weird horse, and I think the one turn will help her. And if, like me, you think the 6 and 7 are both vulnerable, who am I going to play
Sure,
besides
no, the
her
rest
to
of- the
do
rest
her?
of them you
I mean, I guess you want Easy to Bless. She's just not
No.
fast enough.
She scratched out of the
This
top
is a smart
5.
move.
Yeah.
She would have, listen, her race 2 back, problem is she doesn't get out of the gate. Race number 8. So let's start out with the unusual hypothesis of Gary Siaka winning back-to-back
Finales?
Has that ever happened?
I'm sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Winning back-to-back finales is kind of a random, tough thing to do. That's all.
For
I'm
a
saying.
trainer, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a random tough. Bobby Frankel used to do it. with
Pazou
those-
used to win the last race all the time as a jockey.
Frankel used to do it when they ran those 1.5-mile races over at Belmont, but he was also Bobby Frankel. We'll take a look at Scherzondo's race and 2 back, the last turf race. I mean,
Everybody's been waiting for this horse to return to the turf.
and this is a big week for DT Stables. Steve Bick was honored on Passover in Kentucky, actually, at the big Kentucky Awards on Wednesday night. So all of this is true. I'm not making any of this up. But, so with DT Stables, as everybody knows, is the Derby Trail, Steve Bick's website and his stable. I mean, this horse can win. Race did collapse at the end. You
Absolutely.
laughed because Nick Tamaro needed Haymack as Jack for some monster score, and I know we talked about it beforehand.
He was
and that
on
horse
the lead,
almost
right?
got it home. Now that I think about it, I had the exacta if he didn't run second. So thank you. I don't know. The horse showed up last time. I mean, you got the horse third.
Horse ran last time.
This horse can,
I mean, this horse can win.
he can win. Let's take a look at Disarm before we get to your horse, and this is going back to the second place finish up in Saratoga. And Disarm, as we mentioned before, was the horse that was badly interfered with his debut. And this is a brutal beat. Day was a first-time starter in here, but this horse was running turf sprints as a 2-year-old that are good enough to compete. And I also feel like he's improved a little bit in the dirt since then. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with Disarmed here.
They dropped this horse in for a tag, and I know he was. I know the first dirt race wasn't very good, and
The
they
same
dropped,
outfit that loved that horse in the last race that went up at 6-5. I'm just pointing it out.
I just can't. I don't understand why you would. If you thought this horse had a little bit of.
I
a
agree,
talent on
but
the turf.
it is weird. He is a colt. They weren't taking him to Florida. I don't know. Maybe they just decided we don't. I think at that point he had shown them that he wasn't going to be a stakes horse, and there aren't that many opportunities. I don't disagree.
I wanted to
but
claim the winner and got laughed at. Horse paid $21 and I bet him. I don't think you were here. You were on vacation at that point.
I was not here for sure.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with your horse as we look at launch control. And he's got turf pedigree, and I get it. He's
He's gonna
going
get
to be
bet.
a short price
Yeah.
trying the turf for the first time, and I don't love that. But I have no argument. he
That's
can win.
fine. Yeah, I mean,
That's my problem with him.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
why I put him fourth. Not because I'm against him, but because I feel like he's going to be a short price based on dirt races. And even though he has pedigree, it's not that great pedigree for turf. I mean, he's got 2 winners, but they're still better dirt horses. Now, the turf horses that were better were Freud's. So being a Freud probably helps him in that
the Freud,
regard.
that's what.
I think it's important to look at the sires.
I landed there. I remember last time looking this horse up when he was that crazy price when I bet electric stuff and got run down by the Chad Summers first. I remember saying to myself, I wanted to bet this horse on the turf next time. I know he's not going to be a gret price, but I stuck to my gun and picked him.
Gem Mint 10, I mean, is a half to Athenry.
Yep.
The horse for
Michelle Nevin.
for Ray Handel. And that horse has pedigree to move forward in the turf, but the problem is the Lau bands. It's not really a great turf influence. But I thought he was dangerous, potential speed, but I'm going to go to the one that has experience. We'll see what happens. It is great to be back on the turf, have that pick 6 carryover as well, and play it all through Naira Bets. Head on over to Naira Bets. Use the promo code BONUS200. We'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. We have pick 6 carryovers, you mentioned, $31,585. Starts in race number 3 of our 8-race card. 3 turf races in that sequence. Nice to be able to say that again. We have the $15 bonus, bet 75 or more on Aqueduct and Keeneland. It's an opening day at Keeneland. Looks like they're freezing out there. It was warm earlier in the week, and then it got cold for opening week. Though I think it rained yesterday. I got that report from the big, huge honoree in Kentucky. $1,000 buy-in for the Wood Memorial Challenge. BCBC seat up for grabs as well. Cash prizes. Play it online, play it on track as well through Naira Bets, of course, online. That's Mo Donegal, last year's winner. Anthony's Dinner and Derby event at King Umberto's on Wednesday, May 3rd. Lots of fun at that event. You've got Anthony, Acacia, and Maggie as well.
I want to add something really quick. The Venmo and Zelle, for those of you who are like me, analog playing in a digital world, if you see me around here,
just give him the cash.
Yeah,
$9.90. $9.90 if you see him. He's got a 10% discount on marked bills.
Or you can email anthonystabile31@AOL.com and we can figure something else out.
All righty, there you go. There you have it. And don't you have a Naira email account?
Oh, astabile@NairaInc.com.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. And FS2 1 to 6:30 as well here and Oaklawn. Have a great day. Back in the turf. It's all good. Nice weather. Wood Memorial Day tomorrow. Looking forward to that as well. We'll be on at 10:45 tomorrow morning for Talking Horses. 10:45 with that 12:15 first post. Have a great day. Chris Griffin up next. The reprise, the scratches and changes.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.